Okay, it's actually a minute past 5 o'clock on Monday, October the 3rd. We want to welcome everyone to our City Council meeting this evening. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Deb.
Fred. Rodney.
Here.
Tyler.
Here.
Don.
Here.
Jody. Here. Harlan.
Here.
Thank you. Entertain a motion then to approve the agenda today.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, Deb.
Rodney.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Jody. Yes. Harlan.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Tonight, I'd just like to welcome and thank Caitlin Hagg for she's our videographer this afternoon. And just a couple of notes. A week ago Saturday, September the 24th, was last call before fall. It was downtown on State Street. It was wonderful community participation. Julie and I were down there for a couple of hours. Great turnout. Had a lot of good comments and a great family event down there. So very happy about that. And then last Saturday was the Band Day Festival, and day before yesterday in Golly, the weather was perfect. We've all been at Band Day when it's been 35 degrees and snowing. So this was a nice change. So hope everyone was able to attend and enjoy that weather and the festivities, and just want to mention and say thanks to everybody who helped with those events and helped organize and those who participated. So,
And Tornado Alley too.
That's right, yeah, that was all part of it too, yeah. Does the council have anything they'd like to share?
Just echo what you said, you know, I don't say about Band-Aid being on the committee. It takes everybody from the city who cleans up or sets up, helps us set up before and after. And our police department helps us with, you know, barricades and helping us with streets and going down. It really is a community event.
Yeah.
Next year will be 75, so let's hope it's
Yeah.
a great big event.
And hopefully 75 degrees.
Yeah, just like last year this year.
Keep that tradition going.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move to update from the city administrator.
Just a couple announcements regarding construction projects. Last Friday, North McCoy opened, so now the entire 5 blocks is open to traffic. There's still some miscellaneous concrete work, some seeding and signage work to be done, but the street is back open. Work on all 5 blocks of Phillips Street continues, but that should start paving here in the next within the next 2 weeks. The Call Moore Street parking lot downtown, that one's moving along at a really good clip, so we should start seeing paving done later this week or early next week. Tomorrow actually.
Good, better.
I didn't get a chance to tell him that. So.
According to the announcement.
We like it.
Yeah, so tomorrow, and then all 3 of those projects got a substantial completion date here October 31st, so we should really start to see things come together. And now the Midland Overlay project, we're finally done, or close to being completely done, but the major work's done around the courthouse. We're now working in the Harlan, Nebraska, Jones Street area, and I think I saw the concrete trucks out there today that were doing some curb and sidewalk work there. So residents want to see the latest updates or hear about them, they can go to our city Facebook page, city website. There's links to updates there, or they can call City Hall.
Well, it sure is a relief to have this west side done. That was kind of a trick to get in and out of there. But now that it's all done, there's some beautiful streets there. It's really nice.
If I can add one more thing that I haven't had a chance to tell Jacob yet. North Moore Street between Call Street and the alley north of State Street will be closed in the morning for the concrete pumping truck to be staged there to pump the concrete in. It'll remain closed until the concrete pumping is done, and then it will open back up. Sorry, Jacob, I hadn't got to you yet.
That's okay.
But I put an alert out, and Joanne put a press release out about it. So.
I did see the alert. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
I saw
good.
both. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, anything else, Jacob? You good? Okay. Thank you. Agenda item number 7, this is the citizens' opportunity to address the council with any item that's not on the agenda. Not seeing anyone here in the council chambers. So we'll move to agenda item number 8, that's the consent agenda, and this includes approving the minutes from our last meeting, September the 19th, approving the bills to be paid this cycle, and approve Jacob's administrator's report.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion, and who seconded? Harley? Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Agenda item number 9, this is the third reading of an ordinance pertaining to sanitary sewer charges.
This ordinance sets forth amendments to the city sanitary sewer rate structure in the short term, and then out through 2025. The city sanitary sewer fees are generated from a combination of a service fee, a usage fee, and an infrastructure fee. This ordinance makes adjustments to the service fee and the usage fee here immediately, so that would be something that folks will see on their billing cycle beginning on October 20th to the November 20th bill, so that bill that arrives in December with adjustments there, and then sets forth adjustments to all 3 rates effective July 1 of 2023, 2024, and 2025. The necessity for the aggressive rate adjustments is in response to the proposed design to meet the needs of our latest NPDES permit, which regulates the city's wastewater treatment facility and the discharge that goes into the river. And we've got a number of facility upgrades and new technologies for treatment that will have to be adding. That preliminary design report should be done later this month, and then we'll begin final design, and we're on pace for our construction schedule beginning, excuse me, in 2024 and being completed in October of 2025. And what those new treatment regulations that the DNR's imposed on the city to meet those requirements, in working with the engineers and trying to come up with the most economical way possible. Unfortunately, we're still looking at having to more or less double our revenues over the next 3.5 years to be able to cover the debt service on that, on the borrowed funds in order to construct the new plant.
I think we've had some lengthy discussions, and it seems to be the best way, and I know that the city and everybody plans to continue to look at those rates, and if we can improve them in the future, we sure will. But for now, I make a motion to waive the 3rd reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the 3rd reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion to approve the 3rd reading.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the 3rd reading. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And then we need a motion then to adopt the city code, chapter 1213, article 2.
Second.
We have a motion from Rodney, second from Don to adopt this city code. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Agenda item number 10, this is the 2nd and 3rd readings of an ordinance regarding traffic regulations.
This ordinance makes a few different changes to City Code Chapter 10 regarding parking and stop signs. So the first one is designating a 4-way intersection stop signs at the intersection of Hall and State Street. That was something that was included with the approved design for the Mill and Overlay project, so that will become a 4-way stop. The second item is it removes the reference to diagonal parking on Dodge Street. This was something that was eliminated and replaced with the parallel parking back in 2018. And then finally, it amends the parking regulations regarding North Phillip Street, which is currently under reconstruction, and changes which side parallel parking is allowed on, which will now be on the west side, and then eliminates the parallel parking on North McCoy Street from Poplar Street to Maple Street based on the redesign of that street and the new width. Because McCoy is now open and the four-way stop, it'll just be a matter before, that stop sign's installed, is why we have the second and third readings to be considered, and staff's recommendation is to approve both at this meeting.
I'm just worried about remembering to stop at Staten Hall when that gets put in, after, what, 25 years of driving?
So in addition to the stop sign, we're going to paint stop on the road itself. And then I know PD, there's even discussions that we might, to kick it off, roll a four-way stop sign out there too, just to,
Sure.
yeah, emphasize the point. But yeah, no,
So
it's,
many years.
That's right out in front of the police station. You
Yeah,
should probably stop and-
Just turn in and pay the bill.
Slowing down.
Turn in and pay the bill, right?
That's right, yep.
Pay the ticket.
And procedurally, what you need to do is you need to, adopt the second reading. And then again, they recommended that the third reading be waived. So just so you know, you can't combine those motions. We go
that's
through
right.
what Rodney just went through for the third reading of the other ordinance, so we do that for the second reading. So go ahead and, procedurally.
I can waive the second and third reading.
Well, you can waive the second
Waive the
reading.
second.
We're just gonna handle the second reading.
Separately from the
Separately
third.
from the third,
Yep,
yes.
okay.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay.
So, so just, yes.
Move to waive the second reading.
There we go. Thank you, Don.
Okay, we have a motion from Don, a second from Tyler to waive the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes. Motion carried.
Move to approve the second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second then to approve the second reading. Any discussion? Roll call, Deb?
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes. Motion carried.
Move to waive the third reading.
Second.
Motion and a second to waive the third reading. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes. Motion carried.
Move to approve the third reading.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the third reading. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes. Motion carried.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion and a second then to adopt this city code. Any discussion? Hearing none, vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody? Yes. Harley?
Yes. Motion carried, thank you. Okay, agenda item number 11, this is the first reading of an ordinance regulating electric vehicle charging stations on city property.
So this ordinance would establish a new chapter of the city code, chapter 10.46, electric vehicle charging stations on public property. As part of the Call Moore Street parking lot reconstruction project, we've worked with AMU, and AMU is going to be installing an electric vehicle charging station. So that will be able to provide charging for 2 parking stalls, and they'll be located in the southeast corner of that lot, as well as putting in the conduit and the infrastructure that if there's demand in the future to expand that north, those facilities are already there to make it conducive to do so. What this ordinance does is set forth the regulations for those 2 parking spaces that are designated as electric vehicle charging stations by the signage. So it would apply to public parking areas on city-owned property, which has an AMU charging station. The ordinance would make it unlawful for anyone to park, abandon, or leave an unoccupied or unattended vehicle in one of those parking spaces without it being charged. And we just copied our language from our snow emergency ordinance. So in that event, it would, if someone does park there, it'd be a $25 fine. It also gives the police department the discretion to tow. And then authorizes AMU to set the fee for the electric vehicle charging by resolution. So AMU has, I believe at their last board meeting, adopted a fee structure that would be to be charging there $2 an hour for the first 4 hours, and then after 4 hours it would increase to $4 an hour. And the way we wrote this ordinance and want to have it structured is we want to make it something that from a practical standpoint, it's easy, to handle. So if someone is, parks their electric vehicle, they plug in, at some point, obviously their vehicle is going to be charged. But if they're still plugged in from, enforcement perspective, we just want to be able to look and see is it plugged in or not, and not is it actively being charged. So if it's plugged in, PD will ignore it. If it's not plugged in, that's when, it'll be addressed, likely starting with education. But if it is plugged in for extended period of time, that's why AMU's rate structure after 4 hours, it increases. So that's the deterrent, that if someone is parked there to go ahead and move out of the spot. It makes it, like I said, more practical from an enforcement standpoint on, is a vehicle being charged or not.
Now, not having any experience with electric vehicles and charging, I mean, does the station or your car maybe call you once it's charged, or I wonder how that works?
I'm not familiar with those details. I know the system AMU has, I believe it's with a credit card, that you swipe and pay and then plug in, and then it, just logs the hours from there. It's a level 2 charger. So, it's not and there's, it's been a while since I've read up on the 3 different levels, but it's the middle one. So it's not the, 80% like a half hour or so, but over that 4 hours, you should be able to get a full charge. And that's why, we're really looking to then deter it with a higher rate increase after that.
So it keeps charging as long as it's plugged in, or they keep getting charged for it as long as it's plugged in?
Correct, yeah, so even if they're topped off, if they're there and it's plugged in, that $4 will still apply, which is to the incentive for them to then move.
And after 4 hours, then they're incentivized to go unplug, move it to a different spot? Is that?
Yeah, and the idea really with these charging stations, it might, people that, if they live in town or community, chances are, they're just, charging at night, at home. But, if they needed to charge up, you could do that in a half day, or if it's people, coming off 169, coming through town. You've seen a number of cities put these in their downtown as a way to try to attract people to stop and spend some time in the downtown shopping, going to various businesses. So, see it as that as another, kind of way to capture the user base.
And can we get any data from these then on how much they're actually being used, so that we can tell if 2 of them is the right number, if we need to start adding more after that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we'll definitely work with AMU on that. I know we're all, just kind of watching on, we're seeing this macro big push towards electric vehicles, but just how quickly the adoption rate will be that warrants, if and when, we look at expanding those in the future, which will certainly, I want backed by actual data that the demand is there.
Yeah, 'cause- sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you talked about the rate structure. That is open to AMU adjusting, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay, because I mean, the price of gas goes up and down, electricity does too, so I assume they'll be changing that as the price changes.
Yep, the ordinance grants the AMU Board of Trustees the authority to set the rate by resolution, so they can adjust that as needed.
Yeah, I was thinking, when you said that the hourly rate, wow, that's pretty inexpensive
Yeah.
for them to charge the
That's what I
car.
thought, yeah.
And if it's not gonna change that very much, that could pose like, oh, that's pretty, I'll just leave my car there and let it charge all day or whatever. But hopefully it's an incentive for them to charge and leave, because my concern was, that's 2 spots that, the businesses around that area, won't be able to, have people that maybe in that area are trying to run errands really quick. And, those 2 more spots that end up very, busy parking lot that are gonna be, occupied or not being able to use. Once we do this ordinance, no one can park there unless they have an electric car, unless they're charging. I would have liked to see, something, a signage that says, okay, well, during the hours of 8 to 5, you can use this parking spot for up to 15 minutes for an errand or something, if you're not gonna charge your car here. Something like that. to make it, you know, something that, okay, you can use it for an errand, but otherwise this is reserved for electric vehicles or something like that.
Yeah, the challenge with that is just from an enforcement standpoint on when did they start? And, you know, if you know, an officer goes by and sees a vehicle isn't being charged in an electric vehicle charging station, do they assume they're just running an errand? You know, or if they come back an hour later or later that day, have they been there the entire time, or are they running their second errand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I think Tyler brings up a good point. What if no one is using these, no one's charging their cars, you know? If we go months at a time and no one's up there charging their cars, should we keep these reserved just for electric cars? Should we open them back up to the public?
I think this is kind of a, if you build it, they will come type thing. Because people who have electric cars traveling across the country, I think at this time, have to plan ahead where they're gonna recharge.
Yeah.
And this is kind of an economic development thing, is like if you have the charging stations, then those people will spend an hour or two downtown eating or shopping or whatever, so
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes, but I think that's the concept.
I
I think
think
we
we're
go
all in
either
the
way.
learning stage here
Yeah.
too, just to
Yeah,
see.
and it's, you know, just the timing with the project, and it, you know, it makes sense to, with doing a parking lot to, you know, with what we're seeing in terms of, you know, the broader momentum as, you know, just what our vehicle and electric transition in general, to put, you know, these first ones in to, you know, kind of, yeah, lessons learned and things like that, and then how fast that adoption rate is. You know, if it takes a long time, we'll just stick with the two, but if we see that, you know, huge demand to that, you know, would warrant considering additional spaces, you know, that would be something that would have to come back to council to authorize installation of any more charging stalls.
Yeah.
And we have to remember the parking lot next to Threads is actually a city parking lot, public. So
Yeah.
just diagonally across the street, there's certainly a dozen more parking places there too. So,
Motion to waive first reading.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to waive the first reading. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And then motion to approve the first reading.
Second.
Motion from Rodney, second from Don to approve this first reading. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried. So we'll move to agenda item number 12, a resolution approving the sale of our 2002 fire truck.
Earlier this year, the new city rural pumper truck arrived. So with that, in September, we issued a sealed bid for the 2002 Fire Department towing pumper truck. The total of 4 bids was received, the highest being from the city of Burt in the amount of $70,000. Spoke with our police chief, Mitch Ulrich, and him and I both agree. What did I say?
Chief, you said please.
Oh, Fire Chief Mitch Ulrich.
That's it.
And he had estimated, you know, in a range that we were looking at maybe 50 to 75 for that truck. So he was pleased with the price and recommends approval of the sale.
Move to approve the sale.
Second.
Motion from Don, second from Tyler to approve the sale of this fire truck. Any discussion?
I just glad to see it go to my second home, I would call it there. So, and they do a lot of work to raise money for this, so,
Yeah.
and they continue to do so. Continue to support it,
Yeah.
if you can, thank you.
All right. Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 13. This is in regards to a planning project on Highway 169 through Algona.
So the timing of this, we haven't discussed this at a council level, and I apologize for that because I don't like bringing things to you cold, but the application deadline is October 13th. As part of the bipartisan infrastructure legislation that was passed last year, there's a number of new funding initiatives under that program that allocate funding over the next 5 years. One of them that we recently identified was this Reconnecting Communities pilot grant program. And what really prompted us to take a serious look at this was going through the community visioning process. That final report should be done here later this month. It will get officially released. But one of the key things that came out of that report was the connectivity, pedestrian challenges of Highway 169, especially the south section, so from the library, down to the hospital. The hospital obviously being one of our largest employers, people need to go out there for appointments. There's not a sidewalk connection all the way through. It's, very, very small right-of-ways. You're right on the highway, as well as then crossing there at, State Street, Chubb Street, and the various focus groups and surveys that we did. That corridor really, came out as something that, as a challenge and really divides the community in terms of connectivity. What this grant program aims to do is to look at, transportation improvements that were done in years past that, there's larger cities that obviously have a much bigger scale than what we have with, like an interstate going through. But when you have a 4-lane highway that, goes through your community, that, that does, really separate your community, and you have, folks that just don't feel comfortable crossing that, with kids don't want them to cross. And it's just a, a deterrent to really, connect the community and keep traffic going back and forth, and, just for, in terms of ease of access to all the community amenities. So this Reconnecting Communities pilot grant program has two kind of key pieces to it. There's the planning piece and the construction piece. What we're proposing here is to apply for the planning piece, which, if it's funded and goes well, we hope would turn into a construction piece. But on that, it is a 80% federal, 20% local match. And in discussing with Bolton and Mank and the engineering team and the grant writing team and looking at this, rather than just focus on that south corridor, we thought it made more sense to focus on the whole of 169, so, all the way up by, Iowa Lakes Community College down to the hospital, because we also heard comments on just, getting access to a grocery store. It's a tight walk and it's not necessarily convenient, and that's the only one south of Highway 18, is out there. So looking at that whole corridor and what can we do for pedestrian improvements or other multimodal, so it could be, biking, things like that, but just make it, more friendly and kind of, reconnect the community as the name of the grant implies. So Bolton and Mank, looking at that section, is about 2.2 miles and 21 intersections. They're estimating the design cost for that would be between $170,000 and $200,000. If we're awarded, some of that might be on how much we're awarded, if we need to scale that down and really just focus on that southern half, but we thought it made most sense from an application standpoint to really talk about this corridor as a whole. So it would be, what this resolution does is approve submission of that grant application, and then the commitment of the 20% match if it's funded. So, if we were to receive the full $200,000 and decide to go with the full scope of the proposed study, then the city would be responsible for $40,000 of that $200,000 share. And then based off of, the recommendations and the design that comes out of that, the next natural step would be to apply for a federal Reconnecting Communities construction grant, which is again the 80% federal, 20% local. And so both those have a 5-year funding window. This is the first year that we're in. And the application deadline here is coming up October 13th. So that's kind of the background and rationale in looking at this grant application. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is there a cost to apply? Or is it
Um,
something that we can handle?
There's some grant writing which we'll, working with Bolton and Mink and city staff will do together. That might be, you know, a nominal amount, and just kind of some hourly fees if we have to do some maps or something like that.
And so if we do get the planning one, because we can also do the construction, it's not just one or the other.
Correct.
It's not, you're not guaranteed construction. If you get the planning one, it's two separate applications.
Yeah, it's not necessarily get the construction, but it certainly would make sense to, that those that get the planning and can come up with feasible projects that, you know, meet the goals and priorities of the federal DOT, you know, that they would be very competitive candidates for that construction grant.
Do we know what exactly are the deliverables from Bolton and Mink, or what are they doing for that 170 to 200,000? Do they, I mean, is every single little detail planned out in that, and we're ready to go then?
Well, and that's just an estimate to put with the grant. I believe they're gonna look at every intersection where sidewalks should go. Our beginning conversation was, you know, we started at Chubb Street. It's hard for kids to get across the street at that intersection to go to school. We talked about kids getting across the street to get to the library. We talked about, yeah, there is a sidewalk on the east side. They're on the north to get to Hy-Vee, but you still have to cross from the west side to the east side once you get past the railroad tracks to get to that. We looked at a lot of different things. I'm sure they're gonna have guidelines from the federal government if we get this grant of what needs to be done.
So the scope of the services would include public engagement activities. So beyond just, you know, community visioning, Bolton would host, you know, meetings, getting, you know, additional input from the public, you know, the neighborhood. So public engagement meetings, planning studies, so that's things looking at traffic patterns, roadway design, uses of the right-of-way, really looking at each individual intersection, how that functions, turning patterns, pedestrian patterns, where we have gaps, evaluating, you know, any existing safety issues or opportunities to improve. Also looking at economic development impact opportunities, environmental initial review on that, and then the preliminary engineering and design in order to get ready for that environmental review. So it would cover all of that, and so then we would just be taking that, if, you know, we were to get funded, go through that whole process and identify, okay, of the elements in the plan, you know, develop that have preliminary design done for them now, which of those do we want to take and pay and, you know, go to final design on. And some of those might be, you know, just, you know, the Chubb Street crossing might just be a one-off project that we end up not getting, you know, federal funding or applying for that, but it's just, you know, we identify, we can, you know, this is some options we can do. So basically it would take us that public engagement, traffic analysis, and then preliminary design is what this grant would fund.
Kind of gives us an overall plan for that, and then ways, we need to figure out ways to fund it or help fund it.
And that, you know, 169 South Corridor from the library south, that's something that we actually had, I think it was $10,000 budgeted in this year's funds as a nominal amount in planning for that, because we know we're going to have to plan for adjustments in the coming years when AMU goes to bury the overhead power lines. So that's, you know, something that regardless of what we want to do one way or the other, we're going to have to, you know, address that section once the power lines are buried and, you know, adjusting accordingly.
And honestly, since this is a federal grant, they're gonna award larger projects. That's why we're looking at all of 169 instead of just a chunk right now, because we want to make sure we have a competitive grant application to put in.
The planning grant award ranges anywhere from $100,000 to $2 million. And then on the capital construction grants, those are between $5 million and $100 million. You know, so if one thing that might happen is we look at that corridor and we work with the DOT and, we make some dramatic changes and do reconstruction of a whole section. This is just a crazy, I'm not suggesting that will happen there. That is one of many, many, many scenarios. That likely makes sense to, pursue that construction grant because, that 5 million, minimum. But, otherwise, like I said, it might just be, okay, we've identified, these particular intersections, and now just instead of kind of the, community visioning planning level, which is really looking at problem areas and kind of concept of, does this look like it will work? We have that preliminary design done of, yep, this actually will fit, this could be done, yeah, we can hit the grade on that, or no, we can't. And then which of those do we want to pull out and actually create a project, to enhance that corridor, whether that's, building a sidewalk or trail along, the entire length of the corridor, sections of it, or really focusing on some challenging intersections or stretches and, making sure that we have very good crossings at those areas.
Being a part of the community vision, I think it does fit. I know that was something that was talked about especially that south section, but like you said, with being a federal grant and in both sections seems to make sense. So, I make a motion to approve the resolution, approve the grant application.
I'll second.
A motion from Rodney, second from Harley. Any other discussion? Hearing none, vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. And thanks for your work on this and getting this going. Agenda item number 14 is a resolution concerning Cassuth County Economic Development Corporation.
So 2 years ago, the city rejoined KCEDC as a member. And we've already paid our annual dues for this year, which is that $22,240 number. What this resolution and the following two are in response to last year's concerns and the audit that was done, just having formal contracts in place for the funds that are distributed to nonprofits. So this resolution does is puts a formal contract in place with KCDC retroactive to July 1st of this year, which would extend through June 30th of 2023. Sets forth, the expectations, the performance under that contract. And then the contract is written to, unless notice is given of termination, which the city can do at any time, it automatically renews annually, but it's also subject to council approving an amount to be allocated to KCDC that year. So when we go through our annual budgeting process, if our dues are the exact same, we'll put that number in, but if the dues amount adjusts a little bit, we don't have to reapprove the entire contract. It's just an annual amount as council approves. So it's from this and the other contracts that follow this from a practical standpoint, there's really no change, but it is kind of just a formality to get that on paper exactly what the expectations are and the means for tracking that, reporting that, and making sure that public dollars are accountable in their use.
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion from Harley, second from Tyler. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 15, this pertains to the Algona Senior Center.
Sets forth, resolution approves the contract with active seniors, citizens of Algona, i.e. the senior center. The amount budgeted and historically what the city's distributed to the senior center has been $7,700. And what those funds will be specifically used for is to maintain and have public hours at their facility there on Main Street, providing various social, recreation, educational programs, and providing meal programs such as Meals on Wheels to seniors and residents of Algona.
Motion approved.
Second.
A motion from Rodney, second from Don. Any discussion? Roll call, Deb?
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 16, this is a resolution approving services agreement with Cassuth County Food Pantry.
This is a contract with Cassuth County Food Pantry to provide, to distribute food to residents in need within the city. The amount is for $5,500, which is again what was in this year's budget, as well as historically what the city has contributed to the food pantry.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from, Don, did you make that? Tyler did.
Tyler.
Okay. And a second from Don?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, Deb?
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I will just note that the CARE team, they'll be on next week's agenda. We just had a miscommunication in the review of the final contract draft, so that one will be, the formality of that one will be next meeting.
Agenda item number 17 is to approve a pay application.
Barbie.
This is on a CDBG owner-occupied house on 209 East Kennedy. The contractor has performed a portion of the work and has submitted a pay application of $10,260. He's completed $11,400 worth of work, and then we hold 10% for retainage. It has been approved by NIACOG and the inspector that's overseeing the project.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Harley, second from Tyler. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 18 is to approve a street closure on October 31st.
That is Halloween and city trick or treat hours that night. And as the last couple of years, the Methodist Church is planning their trunk or treat event. Both Nebraska and Moore involve constructions, but everything should be cleared out of them by then. So we're if we get close and circumstances dramatically change, we'll address it then otherwise. But those should be open and ready to go. So it would be for the event that evening. On that block of Moore and block in Nebraska that abut the Methodist Church. I'm just approving that for their trunk or treat event, closing it down. I believe the event starts at 5 and goes to 6:30.
Motion to approve street closure.
Second.
A motion from Rodney, second from Don. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item number 19 is to set the date and time for a public hearing.
This is to set a public hearing for Monday, October 17th, on the proposed application of the Community Development Block Grant or CDBG Upper Story Housing Program. The grant application will be in partnership with Team BD Properties LLC to redevelop the upper story of 17 East State Street into apartment complexes. So this is just setting the public hearing for the next meeting on that proposed application.
Motion to set public hearing.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Rodney, second from Jody. Any discussion on the public hearing? Hearing none, vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Agenda item number 20, this is a mayoral appointment to the Retail Revolving Loan Fund Committee. Betty Kunkel's term did expire the middle of September. I visited with Kelsey Thompson, who owns the Bloom, and she agreed to serve a 3-year term and actually thanked me for asking her. So we're excited about that, and I would recommend appointing Kelsey Thompson for a 3-year term on the Retail Revolving Loan Fund Committee.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Harley, second from Jody. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Harley?
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you, and thank you, Kelsey, we look forward to working with you. And final item, agenda item number 21, this is the final notice of vacancy and appointment to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Commissioner Zoe Dow has resigned from that commission, and her term expires the end of the year 2025. Anyone had an idea of a name?
I do, but I haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
I hope you do.
You too?
Okay. We'll wait till 2 weeks from now and hopefully have one.
Yeah, yes.
All right, very good. Well, this brings us to the end of our published agenda. It is 5:46, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.